Hey gorgeous friends, it's Alyssa Rushton here, Energy Intuitive with your December 2021 energy update. And I'm so glad you're here. If you always come around for these energy updates, thanks for being here. And if you're new, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And be sure to like, subscribe, do all the things if you'd like to. And I'm so excited to share with you the energies for December because this is going to be, I think, an extraordinary time of lots of cool new creation. So if you're joining me live right now, hello and welcome. And be sure to put your comments on the replay because they don't stick here. Also, I just wanted to let you know something really exciting. I just got done recording a brand new update for our Miracles portal. It's called The Energies That Are Coming Forward for Lightworkers, Starseeds, Intuitives, and Empaths. And I created a new section. It's going to be in our galactic portal. So if you're a Miracles member already, go check that out. It'll be up tomorrow. And if you're not, go to createmiraclesdaily.com and you can check that out. You can get a free month. I don't even ask you for your credit card. It's just for you to enjoy. Okay, so let's dive in, and you're going to want to grab a pen and paper because, as always, we're going to go over the energies for this month. Plus, I'll be sharing tips and takeaways and those beautiful journal questions you can ask yourself to really shift and move the energy. So the first energy that is up for this whole month, it's an eclipse energy actually, which is why I kind of wanted to wait till today, the day of our beautiful solar eclipse, if you're in the Western Hemisphere. And this is just kind of a gorgeous energy of a big reset. So I've got some notes here. One of the biggest things I notice about this energy is it's letting go of a very old aspect of you. This aspect of you is something that likely you have been working on your whole entire lifetime to heal and let go and untangle from. And right now the energy is really supporting you in just transitioning out of this fully. Now, not to get too much into the astrology, because you know that I'm not too much into the astrobabble of it, but you can look in your astrology chart to see where Chiron is and what house Chiron is in. And you're probably reworking this huge aspect of yourself. So some of you, this is going to be the house of your finances. Some of you, this might be the house of yourself. Some of you, this might be the house of your relationships. So you probably already know where you're working with this massive letting go of an old pattern of yourself in order to create something new. And that's really the first energy of this month. The energetics are supporting you becoming brand new, but you actually have to go into this energy. So for example, if you were eating McDonald's every day and wanting to become healthy, if you continue to eat McDonald's every day, it's not, even though the energy is there to support you in being healthy, you have to actually do things different. So now is a great time to look and see, where is this healing happening and what can you do and be that's different so that you don't continue to encounter this energy again and again and again. I'm going to look down at my notes here. This is, it feels like an energy of really cleanly separating yourself from something. But how I'm seeing this is not necessarily from a person in your life or a place in your life. It's the energy of separating yourself from your old self. It's the energy of almost dying to your old self and being reborn into something new. So it's a really fun energy to play with. And, if you look back into when this eclipse cycle started, which was back in May of 2020, think back to May of 2020 and think, what were you going through then? What were the challenges that you were going through then? And are you still in the challenge of that, trying to extract yourself from that? Many people watching this video have been doing the work. You've been doing the soul work, the soul excavation, and you're actually in something vastly different now. You're in a really different energy. So for those of you, this December is going to bring in more momentum, more of what you want, more like up leveling. If you haven't yet dealt with the thing, that's been lurking, you'll want to do that as swiftly as possible. And let me give you a really practical example here. So quite possibly this is a relationship, right? It might be a relationship that's always in this old gnarly pattern and you just are ready for it to be different. Well, in order for it to change, you've got to actually be different in the relationship. Maybe it's finances. Maybe, I'm actually seeing an image of somebody who has just had lack after lack after lack, and they've been trying to do all these great things, but the lack keeps coming. This person, I'm actually seeing them having to do something different. And yet at the same time, another image is coming in of a woman, in fact, who was trying to do her own business and trying to make a go of it. And she kept encountering lack. And finally, she said in November, enough of this. I'm going to work with this energy. I can feel there's something different that wants to come through. And she actually got a job that was in alignment with what she loved to do. And now she's making a living, she's making a great income, she's even got a savings account going. So I'm literally seeing these two different aspects. One, the person who hasn't yet dealt with it, and the other, the one who has dealt with it, and the energy kind of splitting off. And if you've dealt with the thing, this December is going to be really yummy. It's leading you into a massive expansion either way. One way is going to be a little more fun than the other. So even right now, if you're hearing this and you think you're in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, I know the thing I'm supposed to deal with. Do it now. I promise you will be happy you dealt with it. And what I notice as an energy intuitive, and even just in my own life, is what holds us back from making changes, what holds us back from looking at the hard things, is the fear of actually doing it. It's the fear of having the conversation. It's the fear of looking at your taxes or your income statements. It's the fear of cleaning out the basement, of what we perceive will happen. However, right now, the energy is so strongly supporting you to have a higher level outcome. And it's almost like what was happening for you back in 2020. It's like you're looping around and circling up to a higher level frequency aspect of that so that you can have a different outcome, so that it can be totally different, but you're circling the same thing again, whatever it is. So I know a lot of people are talking about right now, a lot of people who do astrology and the things, they're like, no, this is a distinct ending, something's going to end in your life. And I would really invite you to say that it's more so an energy that you've been running, that you're probably ready to go, yeah, I'm done running this energy and I'm ready to be complete with that and doing something really vastly different for yourself. So when you go back and listen to this, you'll hear it if you don't already know what it is. And I'd be curious to know if you already know what it is. How I'm seeing this is likely there's some beliefs that you installed at a very early age or even in utero that you're just been untwisting yourselves from. And you've been really doing a lot of work around that. If I know you, like I think I know you, you've been doing the work. And so just know that right now the energy is so supporting you to go deeper into doing that work so that you can come out of this on the other side. And really, this is setting you up for a 7-year cycle. Okay, so the work you're doing now to switch out of the old and into the new is in astrology and energetically setting you up for a big, huge 7-year cycle. So anything that you can do now, and in the tips and takeaway section, you're going to love the questions you can ask yourselves to go deeper into that is going to be awesome. Awesome. Let's see, another new energy for this month, specifically into the next coming months, is learning to deal with instability in order to create stability. So this sounds like a Pandora's box a little bit, but you might notice on a global scale a lot of instability, products not being on the shelves or what have you. And that's all really designed so that we can create something vastly new as human beings, create a new way of being stable. It's a time when, regardless of how much instability that you are having in your life, you might look to ways that you can be more stable. This is an excellent time to establish a savings account. It's an excellent time to create some structures for yourself that you might not have had in the past, just to get yourself in the feeling of having more stability within your energy system. And when you have the feeling of stability in your energy system, then it's easier for you to create. You might even decide to create a stabilized eating routine or a stabilized nighttime routine, something to keep you feeling very stable, centered, and grounded, even in all the instability, which there's going to be a bit more of energetically in the field. You might even be noticing it when you're out driving and running errands. You might just feel like, oh, the people are feeling very unstable. Like they might not even be able to stay properly in their own lane. It's a generalized feeling of instability that's coming through, but you can work with that by installing more of that beautiful feeling of stability within yourself and really doing it not from a place of scarcity, but from a place of establishing that solid groundwork within yourself. This is also too about learning to become a master creator in times where the things that we think we need or want aren't readily at our fingertips, and learning to create and be in touch with the universal source of creation energy on a broader scale. So learning how to create stability is sometimes best done in an unstable environment, so that you have to deepen in and tap more fully into those skills as the divine creator that you are. You have these skills, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in a minute. I don't want to repeat myself too much here, but you have these amazing skills that are coming online more and more every single day. You have more and more ability to work with the universe. So really allowing yourself to deepen into that, allowing yourself to call on the forces of the universe, call on your angels, your guides, the divine source of energy, whatever your personal belief system is, but really working with the energy and asking to call in what you want when you need it, when you want it. This is also a time with this instability, for getting into alignment with your future self. So there's a vision I know you have for yourself. You probably know exactly what it is that you want, the life you're here to live, the things you'd like to have while you're here. You know what type of environment supports you or what type of environment doesn't support you. And so now's the time to really get into very practical alignment with that. So for example, if you know you want a house, listen, I'm all for manifesting and I love it. And now is a beautiful energetic time where if you stick money away in a savings account, just the act of doing that is going to energetically support that house, that dream house coming through. So it's a time to do things just a little bit differently than we have before, which really brings me up to my next point, which is getting taken out of your routines in order to create from a higher level of something that really supports you. So here I'm seeing an example of a person who had an office and an apartment, and they've been living, they haven't been living in their office, but they've had their office and then they've had their apartment that they've been sharing with their fiance, and it's been back and forth and back and forth. And that routine is something that they've done for a few years now, and it's worked really well, except now it's not working really well, and they've just bought a new house, and the office and the house are going to be all in one place. So it's an all new routine. So you might be going through something in your world that's an all new routine, and it feels like, whoa, why am I doing this whole new routine? But it's in order for you to really call in a higher level like go up to the next octave of energy and create from that level. So being taken out of your routines is sometimes a beautiful chance to see the contrast in your life and go, what am I not preferring and what am I preferring? And then how can I move the needle towards being in the place that I prefer more often? Now, convexly enough, I find that when you run the energy first through your body of what you prefer, your outside world will really start to change. So even if you're totally knocked out of your routine, let's say that, you know, the place where you've been living for the last couple years is no longer an option and you had to move, or maybe your house that you had been living in got flooded and you've been in a temporary living situation and now you're back to the house. That routine's kind of been upended in some way. So look to the places in your life where the routine's been upended and ask yourself, of this routine, what are you being asked to rework in a higher octave of energy? What have you been doing? What routines have you been doing for the last couple years that really don't serve you, don't serve your higher energy, don't serve the higher octave version of you? Really take a look at that piece. And then also look to simplicity, look to ways that you might pull back in maybe more indigenous ways or ways of doing things in your life that are more in a routine based. Maybe it's growing some form of your own food. Maybe it's, you know, setting up one of those beautiful tree gardens in your home to grow some herbs. Maybe it's getting a bamboo toothbrush. Maybe it's, you know, a variety of things, but really looking to ways in which you can look at the routines you're doing and ask, you know, is this in alignment with the highest octave version of myself? And are there any indigenous ways that would work for me? Because if you look at the indigenous people of the earth, they're still doing very well. They're in harmony with the land, they're in connection, you know, they are in these sustainable communities. And so many of them, you know, some of them are not because they've been westernized, I guess. But if you look towards the ones that are really still doing it, you know, what can you pull? What wisdom can you pull from that and infuse your everyday life with it? I very much get that, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, so I don't want to give it too much away, but I very much get that we are being invited into a different way of living our lives. And with that, I do think I'll transition into the next energy, which is releasing large-scale belief systems and waking up to illusions. So what do I mean by that? There's been belief systems that you've been born into and knowledge and wisdom, and they were belief systems and knowledge and wisdom. And the important thing here is to remember that the energy right now is flooding in with a lot of illumination around the information that we've been given. It's flooded in with, you know, all of these really challenging the 3D based belief systems that we've been taught to believe, and really even what we believe it means to be about a human. So for me, I'm seeing this as coming through as seeing more large scale places where the misinformation, you'll be able to just see it and it'll be like, okay, yes, I felt that, or I knew that. You might even have people in your life that didn't feel that or know that, but they're now able to tap into kind of like, oh, I get that that was sort of what we've been told, but it's actually not really true. Really looking at what types of things you believe are even possible as being a human. You know, when you think about when you were born, there are certain things that we were taught were true and not true about being a human. But if you learn from wisdom traditions or some of the mystery schools, you would really have a lot of different beliefs about what it means to be human. I always go back to the yogic flying. You know, you see these yogis who know how to run divine source energy through their body, and they sit cross-legged and they can literally bounce down this kind of padded runway and hurl their bodies up cross-legged over these huge, like 36-inch tall what do you call those, hurdles, right? They hurdle their body over the hurdles. And you take the fittest, most athletic person and you put them in the same position with their legs crossed and ask them to do it, and they cannot. So when we run divine source energy through our bodies, there's a whole bunch of things that we can do that we were told you actually can't do. So now's a great time to really question those belief systems, question those 3D based belief systems of what do you believe is possible for yourself? What skills do you believe are possible for you? You know, do you believe that you have access to all the information that you might need, that you felt like you had to have a device for, but you don't really have to have a device for? I always go back to Albert Einstein, who would pull down answers to the most complex problems from the universe. That's how he would get his information. Yes, he was book smart, but he went into an alpha state and pulled it down. So really remembering that you have these same skills, and the more you tap into them and untangle from that 3D belief structure, the more beneficial it's going to be for you, the more positive it's going to be for other people. And ultimately, the goal of this whole time is to develop new governing truths for how you operate in the world. Because ultimately, your experience here is very beliefs based. And when you take the moments to untangle from the beliefs that were just imposed upon you, doesn't mean they're true or not true. They were just imposed upon you. So when you take the time to really untangle from those beliefs and learn new ways of being, it's amazing what can happen. And the energy is really supporting that right now. So you might really see this across the globe in terms of seeing large chunks of misinformation come out that it's so obvious that people are like, well, that's just laughable. It's misinformation and it's so obvious that it's laughable. Or you might see something that comes out that's like, okay, did you guys know this has always been misinformation? So illuminating that. You might feel misinformation in your system, meaning you might hear somebody tell you something and you're just going to feel that it's off. You're going to feel that it's not true. And this is another piece that I think is so important to really tap into for yourself, is having the awareness in your heart and your body system to be able to distinguish truth from untruth, just how it lands in your system. Okay? And that is such a beautiful skill to have. And when you have that skill, you will always be on course. You'll always be going in the right direction, because you'll be able to tap into that feeling and go, yes, what this person's telling me is true. Or, ooh, actually, that feels weird. That feels wonky. And it doesn't feel true for me. Now, here's the caveat is, everybody's truth meter is a little bit different, right? Depending on what level of vibration you're at, it's going to feel very different in your system. So, and let me just give you an example of that. So if you had a lower frequency running in your body and someone says, yeah, you could totally have McDonald's and it's actually really good for you, they're going to maybe feel that as truth. Whereas if you have a very clear channel and someone said, eating McDonald's is really good for you, they would instantly feel the untruth of that. So based on your system and how clear it is how you will hear and experience truth. But at your level of frequency, that's really important, because, and here's what's really important to remember is, everybody's working a different level of frequency. It's not right or wrong. It's not good or bad. It's just the level of frequency that they're learning through and working through. So what's important for you to remember is that you're working through your own level of truth at this time. You're working through the belief systems and structures that you can rewire at this time. And it's a really powerful time to be loosened up with those belief systems and really let yourself explore. For example, if you haven't read many books on the Essenes, or you haven't read many books on another a competing or opposing viewpoint to yours, it's a great time to just allow yourself the flexibility to read up or study up on things that are opposing or counter to what you've always believed. And I feel like that starts to loosen up the belief system a little bit and allows you to have a different experience and generate something really new. Let's see. The last energy I want to talk about today is choosing to hold and embody the divine template versus vibrating at a downward place, or vibrating in a very human 3D place. Said differently, choosing to vibrate up versus choosing to vibrate down. Again, there is no right or wrong here. This is based on your preferences. It's based on what you like. And many people at this time are choosing to, what I would call, vibrate down, or choosing to align with something very different than you might be choosing. And one of the most beautiful things you can do is witness them as learning through that. Instead of choosing to view it as they're doing it wrong, or that's a bad choice, or anything like that, you can simply see them as like, oh, wow, they're learning through this at the soul level, maybe not at the consciousness level, but at least at the soul level. Right now, it's about your choice and where you'd like to be. However, I will say that there is a divine template that's getting the volume turned up on it. And you could probably already feel this in your own system. You know, I do calls with people about energy, and every day I see more and more people going, wow, I really feel things differently. Wow, I really have been having more clairaudience, or more, knowing, or more synchronicities. And people are feeling it on such a bigger level. People that you wouldn't even believe are feeling it. Some are choosing to deny that feeling and numb out, and some are choosing to turn up the dial on that and tap in. So it's kind of that choice point right now of what are you choosing to align with. And ultimately, you're creating a new identity for yourself. Ultimately, this whole next month is about really releasing large parts of you in order to create this new experience that you're going to have and embody here on the planet. And let me just say, vibrating up looks like choosing to use more of your divine skills. It looks like being an example. It looks like saying, yes, use me, divine source energy, as an example, as a role model, as a way shower through this time. And really all you need to do, if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, yes, I want that, just ask for it. Say, yes, let me embody more of this. Let me be more of an example. And all of the right teachers, all of the right students, all of the right wisdom and information will come to you so that you can be that person, so that you can shift it and change it. Let's ask yourself a couple questions, because really this vibrating up is a very conscious choice. Many people, they're going to learn through something and they'll say consciously, I'm choosing this. For example, I'm choosing to buy this house. I'm choosing to have this experience. That's a conscious choice. Some people, however, will learn through something in a more unconscious way. Same house example. They might say, I'm choosing to buy this house, but they might not understand that that house is a contrast house, that house is going to be like a problem house. And that if they just only would have waited just a moment, they would have found the house that they really, really wanted, but they chose that house out of an energy of desperation. So remembering that we learn through all sorts of ways, and sometimes it's very consciously and sometimes it's unconsciously, and yet you have a whole nother subgroup of people who are learning lessons based on a super unconscious program they're choosing to check out. They're eating really unhealthy foods. Maybe they're using drugs and alcohol, or overuse of TV, or other means of checking out, and that's okay. They're learning through it. So for you can ask yourself, are you vibrating up, by asking yourself things like, am I choosing to consume foods that nourish my body and that feed my soul, and that were grown in a way that is honoring of the planet? Were they grown or raised in a way that is actually not filled with chemicals and all the things? You can ask yourselves questions like, am I choosing to consume the media and the things that I'm listening to, are they uplifting to my frequency and my vibration? Or boy, do I feel like I just feel awful after I get done. You really want to start to ask those questions, because right now is a time when your daily vibration matters. Ask yourself, am I breathing consciously? Am I breathing through my conscious divine awareness through as many moments of this day as I can? You know, conscious breathing, consciously showing up in each and every moment is a big part of this. And it's a great time to just kind of ask yourself the question, grade your paper, if you will. How well can you hold that divine level of consciousness, that sort of detached awareness of all that's going on, that can work with all the energies that are coming in as they come in, but that isn't in, and here's what I feel like the secret is, isn't in a reactionary mode. It's not in a kind of an unconscious mode of reaction. It's really dialed in, and usually you'll experience this as seeing out through your eyes, but also feeling pulled up into a level of frequency that's above you. You might even be able to hold a chant in your mind and also have a conversation with somebody at the same time and focus on your breathing. That's a great way to know if you are in that presence, that divine source energy presence, or if you're not. If you can focus on your breathing and feel how great it feels and be holding the frequency of love and have the conversation, then you know. If your attention starts to slip and go, then you know there's some work to be done too. Let's see. Ask yourself if you're spending time every day with the planet and divine source energy consciousness. There's so many people I talk to that tell me, I can't remember the last time I had my feet on the ground or my buns in the snow or whatever it is. So are you every single day taking time out to connect with the earth, to connect with divine source energy and bring through that information, that vibration, that wisdom, that intuition? And are you possibly ingesting any foods that are taking you down, any substances that are taking you down? Every little thing you do during your day affects the frequency. So really, now's a great time to just take a look at that. Again, choosing to hold and embody this divine frequency is amazing. And it is a choice that people are making right now at this time. There's a big energy of this coming through, which I just love. And remembering that if somebody's not choosing this, it just might not be their time. It might not be their lifetime to do it. But holding them in that beautiful space of love and holding them in that space of, I get that you're going to learn through this no matter what. There's one other energy that I wanted to talk about that I didn't mention already, and it's the energy of things sort of changing from what you thought it was going to be, but changing for something that's better and more aligned with you. And I've got goose chills as I say this, because many of you right now are in a situation, you've actually switched up something in your life, you've chosen to do something, and then there might be within the next, I'm seeing it as like a window through now, through sort of the 3rd and 4th week of January, if something drastically changes in there, that it was meant to be. It was meant to change. You're ready to go up to a higher level of octave of lesson. And I'd love to know how many of you are feeling that, like you feel, yes, I am ready to go up to the next octave level of energy, of lessons, of learning through things. If something is kind of that drastic change, and I see this sort of on the global scale, but I see it also in the lifestyle. And I keep seeing all this imagery of houses. So it feels like a lot of folks are making housing decisions. So if you've just moved locations, or you're just buying a house, know that if something happens with that and all of a sudden you need to change locations, or all of a sudden there's a switch with it, it's actually for your highest good. It's coming through for you to align with something higher, a higher octave version of you. So that's what's happening this December. I love this so much. I want to jump down to the tips and takeaways section, because there's some really great questions that you can ask yourself. So what you want to be doing right now in general, and this is a tip, is focusing on what you want to create. That's sort of the next version of you. I, again, feel like we are completing a cycle, but it's more a personalized cycle of who we are on an individual level and on a global level. So we've always thought like, yes, we're these beings and we're consumers, and we buy the TVs and we buy the new refrigerators and we buy the new cars. And on a global scale, that's what we've always thought we are, at least since I was born. It was more about where you went to college and who you knew and how successful you were and what kind of car you drove and all of the things of life. And so it feels like on a global scale, we're going to be invited to really redefine that. And so thinking about, well, gosh, if we could create a whole new world based on different success markers, who would we be? What would we create? It would probably be something really awesome. And then asking yourself on a personal level, what would you create for yourself? A daily routine, a place that you lived, food you ate, what your body felt like and looked like. What would you create for yourself if you could create from a whole new place, creating this future version of you? Really reminding yourself too that you can have a whole new body. I've made one, and you really do get one every 7 years, whether you like it or not. So just deciding, who's this new body going to be? What new skills am I going to install? What new ways of being will I put into place now that's going to fuel who I want to become? So in order to become this new being, you're going to ask yourself some questions. And I love these questions because they're cleanup questions. Are you ready? So the first one is, forgive me for reading my notes, I just have so much, I couldn't possibly keep it all up here. That might be something for me to re-believe, right? I can totally possibly keep it all up here. What do you need to clear up before you move on to the next phase of evolution? And by the way, this is huge. When I work with people in energy, one of the biggest things I see is we need to release something in order to get the new thing. For example, I probably shouldn't use this example, but maybe you've always had this really abusive partner, and they've always just been kind of being abusive and being a bit of a jerk. You might need to release that and say no to that in order to say yes to something else. Maybe you've always chosen these jobs that don't pay you very much and keep you in lack. You're probably going to have to say no to that in order to say yes to something else. But usually this involves something along the lines of, what do you need to clear up? Is it finances? Is it the way you've been eating? Is it the way you've been thinking? Is it the way you've been interacting with family? What is it that you need to clear up before you can move on? What old beliefs do you need to let go of? For every single version of ourselves, we have a different set of beliefs. So for example, if you're an Olympic athlete, you have a whole different set of beliefs about yourself and who you are and what you do than if you love watching the news for a living and being on the couch, right? You have two different sets of beliefs. So what beliefs would you need to let go of in order to be this new person? For example, just to use the body for an example, if you wanted a really fit body, but you didn't have one right now, a belief that you might need to let go of is working out is hard, or I know I don't ever have the time to work out. So maybe it's a money question. Maybe it's a money belief, like there's never enough money coming in, or I always have these jobs that don't bring me enough money. Really letting go of that belief and choosing to align with something different. Let's see, what do you physically need to clear up before moving on? Do you physically need to clear up I'll tell you one of mine. I am horrible at filing. I'm terrible at filing, and it's just something that I've not been good at. So I've been trying to get really good at filing. I need to physically clear up how I file things, where I put them so that I can remember where I put them, how I track expenses, how I track things. That's something that I really physically needed to do. So what in your physical environment would you need to clear up in order to be that new version of you? And then what patterned ways of being that don't actually work in your behavior are you ready to let go of? So we all have these habits and patterns, and if you can just look at the ones that don't serve you and go, yes, I can actually shift this, I can actually change it, and I'm ready. And being honest with yourself, like, this doesn't actually work for me, and I know that. So for example, here's a really funny one. I have this person in my life who is like, oh, dairy doesn't bother me. I'm totally fine with dairy, except they're always having really bad acne breakouts and their nose is always running. And dairy is totally known for those two things. So if you could just be honest with yourself and say, yeah, dairy actually doesn't work for me, and I'm going to stop that now, you'll have a different experience with life. Let's see, what else? What might you need to say no to? We talked about this already, but really looking at your life and going, what do I need to say no to in order to have a different experience? These are some great close of the year questions that you could ask yourself. I'm going to be doing a Rise and Rebirth at the end of the year. I do this every year, and it's like this big cleanup of the energy of the year so that you can really rebirth into the new year. So stay connected if you want to hear more about that. But these are just great end of the year questions that are going to allow you to work with and alchemize the energy of this time. Again, December's a really strong energy. Lots going on this month. But for those of you who've been doing the work, let me just give you a little bit of a spoiler alert. This is your window. It's like Dwayne talks about this. He talks about how it's when you change out the slide. Have you ever seen that old slideshow? And there's a slide on the screen, and then you switch it out and you hear the sound and the screen goes blank. Think of this December is like this time where the screen goes blank a little bit in order for you to reset up into the next version of you, the highest level octave of version of you that you can attain at this time. So that's how I'm seeing this December. I'm so excited for you who've been doing the work. Dig into the work even more. If you know there's that thing that you've been kind of avoiding, address it now. I promise you, you will be so happy you did. And I just want to thank you for being here. Thank you for doing the work. I love you guys so much. And I'm excited to hear what this December brings for you. So keep me posted. Again, stay connected. Be sure to like this video, share it as a story, or share it with a friend. It lets them know that they're supported and they're not going through this alone. It's the one thing I keep hearing from people again and again. Everybody kind of thinks they're going through this alone, but you're not. You're going through this with a beautiful group of awakened souls. And so it's so helpful just to know that you're part of the process. All right. I love you. I love you. Have the most magnificent eclipse today and the best week. And I'll see you next week. And bye for now.